Deal for Steve Kerr? Baxter Holmes did say that it came up with Joe Lacob, and Joe kind of, yeah. Deal's coming up. Anthony Slater, does he expect a deal to be done for Steve Kerr?
Steve Kerr, the money's not taxed. As long as both sides want to be around, everything Steve Kerr said is he wants to coach long-term. Every time I've talked to him on or off the record, he's very motivated to continue coaching the Warriors. And, Joe Lacob has only said and shown that he does want Steve Kerr here long-term. So I think they'll come to an agreement. It's just about a dollar amount eventually.
Okay. And Steve has indicated that as well. I do find that to be, I don't want to use the word unsatisfying. It's a curious answer/reason to me. I get it. Billionaires don't want to spend money just because they have it. But as Anthony said, this is not taxed. It doesn't go to the cap. This is just money. And it's Steve Kerr, and it's 4 rings. And I don't know. I have the hardest time buying that we're trying to squeeze each other for dollars here. Like, if Steve wants to be, and I know this will bother some of you, if he wants to be the top paid coach in the game, he should be. He should be. Why not?
Yeah, maybe Joe doesn't want to pay the top of the market money to Steve Kerr.
But Steve's earned that. You can't cruise around if you're Joe Lacob and be like, well, we're the Golden State Warriors, and we have built this credibility, and we have built this brand, and we are amazing, and we think people want to be here. And, oh, by the way, the head coach who won 4 rings and helped build this whole thing, I think he should be maybe 7th.
Right.
Like, what are we doing here? There's 12 million, 14 million, whatever.
Right. Deadlines spur action, as you know, and you're in the middle of a season, so I don't even know how much negotiating is going on. Steve's focusing on the task at hand, which is trying to get into the playoffs and trying to win a championship. And Steve mentioned to us before that his people are talking to their people, so it's nothing that he's even directly involved with as far as, he and Joe Lacob sitting down and hammering out a deal. It does seem, though, based on what Baxter Holmes said and then Anthony Slater there, that Steve is going to be the coach again next year.
Here is what Baxter Holmes said about the whole thing.
He did mention to me, this wasn't in the piece, but that he expects a deal to get done very soon. Steve's been in the NBA a long time. He understands how, that the grass isn't always greener. He loves working for the Warriors, loves the partnership with Steph and whatnot. Joe made the remark to me. He said, we're entering into kind of an interesting position, potentially rebuilding over, at some point in time, not really sure what that looks like. And Steve has to decide how, if he wants to be part of that, and if the direction that we go, how much that factors into his decision. But my understanding is I expect the deal to get done soon. Joe said that to me. I've heard that from other people kind of close to the matter. I'd be very, I don't, and I've also heard this, that Steve understands that Joe is the kind of guy that you'll get a new deal when your current deal is done. That's kind of how he operates. So it's not unusual to work on an expiring deal under Joe. And I'm told that Steve's fine with that.
So we're getting the same message from every single direction.
Right. Well, that one, expecting a deal to be done soon, that's interesting because you're down to about 8 weeks in the regular season. So do you hammer out a deal before the year ends, or do you wait for the year to end and then announce a deal? I do think the timing of this is, I guess it's not that pertinent, but if you go out today and you lose 138-91, and then tomorrow morning, hey, Steve Kerr's got an extension, that probably wouldn't play as well as if you announced a deal after a victory.
Right, but in the same soundbite, he's also saying that Joe Lacob is the type that, you get a deal when your other deal is done. Right. Your other deal's not done yet. Joe Lacob is in information gathering mode. Big time, aren't we all?
Of course, right? Always.
These last 29 games, are you good? Are you bad? Are you somewhere in between? And individually. Clay, are you good? Are you bad? Are you somewhere in between? Kuminga, good, bad, somewhere in between? Same for Steve Kerr, I guess. I don't think it means that the Warriors are going to suddenly just launch into a new search for a new coach, but based on what the Warriors' situation is at the end of the year, that could certainly affect what everybody wants to do going forward, or could shade the way that a new deal looks. Is it a 2-year deal? Is it a 5-year deal? Right? I think
do we give you $15 million a year, or if you you end up with 10 and 19 over the last 29. Does that cost Steve Kerr money on the deal?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe it cost Steve Kerr his motivation. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like no. He says no.
Yeah, and Baxter said, Joe Lacob expects a deal to be done soon.
Yeah.
Soon to me is a couple weeks. Soon is not, we get into the summer.
Yeah. 888-957-9570. We got something else we're going to play for you from Anthony, but we'll do it in a sec. Let's go to Mike in Hayward. Hi, Mike. You're on with Willard and Dibs.
Hey, how you guys? I like the conversation. I would just like to say that I think what I'm seeing in the Warriors right now, I like it. I like Pazinski. I like Kuminga. I think that's what I think Kerr's found out these guys can play with Steph, right? And they're learning real fast. And Chris Paul, he ain't getting too many minutes, man. I don't think he's getting too many minutes unless Pazinski starts messing up, right? That guy Pazinski, they got him and Kuminga. I don't know any other NBA teams got two young guys like that just playing at that level right now. I don't know who that might be, right? There might be a few teams, but I think they got something going on. If it's not this year, next year for sure. I think they got something really fundamental they can build on with the guys they got left. And Clay coming off the bench, what's the big deal? Hey, maybe his legs aren't as good as they are. I don't know, but all I know is that if he pulls this off with Kerr, they're gonna be talking about how brilliant Kerr is. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Okay. I have to apologize to Mike. I have to apologize to him. I got completely railroaded from listening. I heard everything he said, but I got distracted.
Because of the pronunciation.
Because he called him Pazinski. Yeah. It's been a minute since we've gotten another addition to our family of mispronunciation sensations.
That's a buck.
Kid.
Yeah.
Pazinski.
That's a good one. Pazinski. And there was three of them in there. There were three Pazinskis in there. Mike, welcome to the family. Glad to have you on board.
You have been forever minted.
Yes.
By 95.7 The Game and Mark Grandy.
The majority of his call was centered around
Steve Kerr's
the Poughkeepsie kid and Kuminga having young core pieces to build around for the future.
Yes, and that Chris Paul's not going to play too many minutes, and we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, this is another nod to what I'm talking about with regard to Steve Kerr. And this isn't just to have this blanket snuggie around people like Steve Kerr and Kyle Shanahan. Oh, here we go, defending the coach again. But listen, I think you're doing yourself a disservice with Warrior takes. Not you, Dibs. You're doing yourself a disservice with Warrior takes if you want to act like the hand that Steve has been dealt this year is just something that you can just play. Yeah. Come on, coach. I keep losing all these close games. Well, what in the hell am I supposed to do every night? Who do you want me to play? You guys are all giving me a list of 11 people and yelling at me to play them for more minutes. And some of them are a handful of players that are not to be relied on yet. Kuminga, we didn't know if you could rely on him. You still kind of scratch your head a little bit. Like, are you really ready to do this every night? Chris Paul, are you healthy? Are you 40? Like, Andrew Wiggins, are you in there?
Right.
Klay Thompson, are you okay? You look very angry and unsettled right now. Yet, all of you have the ability to uncork 30 at any moment. And you all are just like, dude, make all the right calls.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
I mean, it's so hard.
Just play the good guys and bench the bad ones. End of coaching clinic.
So
this year's been difficult, for sure.
Thank you.
It's been difficult.
Not saying he's perfect. He's been the first to step forward and be like, mess that up, screw that up over there. Right? But
and he's had to do things this year that he hasn't had to do in the past, because in the past it was, all right, Steph, Clay, and Dre, and we'll go Wiggins and Looney. Boom. There's my five.
Looney.
And I've got 3 or 4 guys on the bench who I can trust and I can rely on. And then, everyone talking about Lamb and Jerome. He was married to Lamb and Jerome. He should have been playing the young guys. Well, Steve thought that those guys were going to help him in the near term, and turns out they did at times, and then they didn't, and that's the way that went. So when you're trying to play 9 and 10 guys and you have a roster where you only feel like 6 or 7 are playable, you're going to end up playing guys that even Steve probably didn't want to play.
Well, I mean, look, did you want to win the Sacramento series or not?
Big time.
Okay. So I'm sorry, if Kuminga's going to stand there and watch rebounds fly over his head, then yes, I'd rather have Anthony Lamb. I don't care that he's not a very good basketball player. Was he playing overseas now or something? Where did he go?
Sounds about right.
Went somewhere.
You talk, I'll Google.
Whatever. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Kuminga's got more talent than his pinky finger.
He's playing in New Zealand.
There you go.
For the Breakers.
Okay. Kuminga's got more talent than his pinky finger. No doubt about it. It doesn't matter, though, if you stand there and watch rebounds fly over your head. It doesn't matter. So I'd get mad about people like Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb if there was an alternative that was sitting there that was amazing.
Right.
But there wasn't then.
And this year, he kind of has the opposite challenge. Last year, you got into that Lakers series, and there were about 6.5 guys you could play. Moses Moody was that half.
Yeah.
And the rest of it was, oh, God, I got to play somebody. I don't want to play him. Can't play you. You don't try. You're no good. This year, he's got 11 or 12 when healthy. And I was just reading reports. Chris Paul practiced 5-on-5, and Steve Kerr said he's close. So you might get CP3 tomorrow night, big boy, when you're out there with the whole fam damly.
I don't listen. I'm not.
No, you're down on him.
That's the wrong way to say it.
You were really down on him early.
Well, I've never.
Then you came around a little bit.
Not really.
And now you're back out.
I've never been excited about Chris Paul being a Warrior.
You hate him. Sorry.
It doesn't.
Trying to get you to laugh.
It doesn't get
Laughter's
me.
free.
He can whatever. It's
Hey,
just,
Dub Nation, it's Chris Paul.
Thank you. It's just whatever. It really is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that bothers everybody. The whole thing to me has been a big, fat whatever. I look at Chris Paul and I go, you got rid of Jordan Poole. So
welcome. Congrats.